Founded in Germany in 1919, the Bauhaus School of Art and Design survived shortages of funds, political instability, and occasional internal divisions. It was twice forced to relocate and produced just 500 graduates in 14 years, yet it was the 20th century's most influential school of design. Origins and influences. Bauhaus, which means building house, was the vision of the modernist architect Walter Gropius. Established in the city of Weimar, Bauhaus aimed to overcome the prejudice that raised high art over lowly design. Classes were held in workshops with apprentices taking a compulsory preliminary class before moving on after 6 months to train in the field of their choice. The school's first teacher was Johannes Itten, who taught color theory and practical use of materials. His successor, Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, was as much scientific inventor as artist. He taught draughtsmanship, painting, and photomontage. Under political pressure to justify its funding, Gropius staged an exhibition of Bauhaus designs, kitchenware, tables, and textiles in a purpose-built show house. Despite international acclaim, the Bauhaus was forced to leave Weimar for Dessau in 1925. In the new Bauhaus, the emphasis was on industrial rather than craft design. Subjects and techniques. New products, such as ceiling lamps, cantilever chairs, and furniture suitable for office or home, were designed by Bauhaus technicians and produced by companies who owned large-scale factories such as that of Standard Mobile Furniture. In 1928, Gropius resigned and was replaced by Bauhaus architect Hans Meyer. He had produced the first prefabricated housing and stressed the need to design for people's needs. He resigned in 1930 due to his left-wing views. His replacement, Mies van der Rohe, would go on to design New York's Seagram building. By 1931, Nazis had gained Dessau and, in 1932, Bauhaus made its final move to Berlin. A Staatliches Bauhaus. Gropius designed the Bauhaus building in Dessau. Built between 1925 and 1926, it comprised workshops, lecture rooms and, as seen here, ultramodern students' quarters. Current events. 1919. With Germany shamed and defeated in World War I, society teetered on the edge of chaos. In both Berlin and Munich there were failed leftist insurrections. 1922. The direction that much of Europe would take was signaled when Mussolini seized power in a coup d'état, and Italy became a fascist state. 1930. A critical year for Germany, as the international banking crisis polarized political opinion. With a quarter of the population unemployed, it became difficult for moderate voices to be heard. Bauhaus. Lionel Feininger. B. New York, 1871. D. New York, 1956. Although he was a gifted musician, Lionel Feininger chose a career in art and studied in Paris and Berlin. A successful graphic artist, he secured contracts with publications in both Germany and the US. Feininger turned to painting in 1907, when he was posted to Paris for 2 years. On his return to Germany, he specialized in landscapes. The turning point came in 1911, when he encountered Cubism and his work developed the splintered prismatic forms of Orphism, in which light is as important as mass. In 1917, a successful exhibition established his reputation. He was Gropius's first appointee at the Bauhaus in Berlin, where he headed the print workshop from 1919 to 1925. It was in this capacity that he developed his students' interest in the art of printing from woodcuts. Lifeline. 1871. Born in New York, 16 moves to Berlin when 1887 leaves Germany to study music, but embarks on art studies within a year. 1888 to 93 studies at art institutions in Hamburg. 1907 to 11 concentrates on Berlin and Paris painting, and is influenced by Cubism. 1919 founder and longest-serving member of the Bauhaus. 1937 returns to New York, paints and teaches. Towery, monumental and luminous, Feininger's townscapes often feature a church tower. Painted as if the light were shining from within, his towers came to symbolize rebirth in the years after World War I. 1923 to 26, oil on canvas, 61 by 48 centimeters, Kunstmuseum, Basel, Switzerland. Sailboats. This image captures the sense of speed, light, and air involved in sailing. Clearly defined shapes drawn with the lightest touch link the boats, sea, and sky in a network of interlocking planes. With a minimum of color, Feininger has arrived at an almost naturalistic scene. 1929, Oil on Canvas, the Detroit Institute of Arts, Detroit, U.S. Closer look. Dynamic movement upward and downward pointing triangles cut across the canvas to represent the sails and rays of light. This, coupled with the movement from left to right, creates a sense of constant progress. Laszlo Moholy-Nagy. Biebksporad, 1895, D. Chicago, 1946. Hungarian artist Laszlo Moholy-Nagy studied law at Budapest University. He took up painting while he was convalescing from a war wound. He was mostly self-taught and was influenced by constructivism, creating photographs made by exposing objects to light on photosensitive paper, photomontage, and collage. In 1922, he exhibited at the Sturm Gallery in Berlin and was Walter Gropius's choice to replace Johannes Itten to teach on the Bauhaus preliminary course. Light, its effects and creative potential, was the core of much of Moholy-Nagy's work. He taught in a scientific way and was the first artist to work with electricity creatively. He constructed rotating light machines for what he called the theater of totality, aiming to create a new theatrical experience in the process. Lifeline. 1895, born in Hungary, 1917, turns to art while convalescing. 1919 to 21, moves to Vienna and then Berlin, where he meets Russian constructivists Malevich and L. Lisitsky. 1923 to 28, appointed at the Bauhaus, where he teaches in the metal workshop initially. 1928, becomes a stage designer for Berlin Avant-Garde Theater. 1936, designs the sets for sci-fi film The Shape of Things to Come. 1939, founds his own school of design in Chicago. 1946, dies in Chicago. Z8, Moholy-Nagy was interested in illusory effects, particularly the three-dimensionality of apparently flat objects. 1935, oil and galolith on board, 73 by 87 centimeters, private collection. Kinetic construction. This design shows the intended effect of one of Moholy-Nagy's machines. His aim was to project the theatrical action at the spectator and remove the barrier between stage and audience. See 1925-30, working sketch, Magyar Nemzeti Galéria. Budapest, Hungary. Closer look. Grand ambition. The size of the figure shows the scale of the artist's vision. After years of experimenting with rotating lights and shadows, he made his light space modulator machine, which made him feel like the sorcerer's apprentice. Josef Albers. Bottrop, Germany, 1888. D. New Haven, 1976. Working intermittently as a schoolteacher, Josef Albers studied art in Berlin, Essen, and Munich from 1913 to 1920. He then enrolled at the Bauhaus, where he was the first graduate to join the staff. From 1923 to 1933, he worked in the stained glass, typography, and furniture design workshops. He also co-ran the preliminary course with Moholy-Nagy. In 1933, he moved to the U.S. and took up oil painting. From 1949 until his death, he painted variations on a series of precise, formal, abstract pictures entitled Homage to the Square. From 1950 to 1959, he taught design at Yale University and published his theoretical essay Interaction of Colors. A Homage to the Square. Albers sought to explore spatial dynamics and color combinations in a format removed from any reference to the natural world. Since there are no right angles found in nature, Albers chose to focus his studies on the square for consecutive right angles. See 1960, Oil on Masonite, Gemeente Museum, The Hague, Netherlands. Oskar Schlemmer. B. Stuttgart, 1888, D. Baden-Baden, 1943. One of the Bauhaus School of Art and Design's most influential teachers, Oskar Schlemmer trained in marquetry before enrolling at the Stuttgart Academy from 1906 to 1911. His artistic career was varied. He painted, sculpted, designed for the stage, and wrote on art theory. At the Bauhaus, at both Weimar and Dessau, he worked in the metalwork, sculpture, and stage design workshops. His triadic ballet, a constructivist tour de force with music by Paul Hindemith, was first staged in Stuttgart in 1922 and the following year at the Bauhaus. Schlemmer remained a figurative painter, believing that pure abstraction had a tendency to be soulless. His own work retains a cool and detached quality, however. For figures and a cube, Schlemmer combines illusional shapes with human forms. The viewer is drawn into the distance, where the smallest figure stands. The juxtaposition of figures and cube has a strangely disarming feel. 1928, oil on canvas, 246 by 160 centimeters, Staatsgalerie, Stuttgart, Germany. 3 girls, and a head in profile. Schlemmer's most important theme was the human figure in space, either moving or stationary. In this painting of 3 girls, it is the sense of stillness that holds the viewer. See 1926-29, oil on paper, 64 by 48 centimeters, Kunsthal, Hamburg, Germany. Paul Klee. BMNCHNBUCHSE, near Bern, 1879. Di Miralto, near Locarno, 1940. An accomplished violinist, Paul Klee decided to forego a musical career to study art. He moved to Munich in 1898 and enrolled at the Academy. It was there that he studied under the rigorously classical Franz von Stuck. But from the very beginning, Klee's work defied convention. Between 1903 and 1905 he produced a series of bitterly satirical monochrome etchings called Inventions, which featured disturbingly distorted figures. He moved from a graphic to a painterly style in 1914 following a trip to Tunisia. Klee's childlike creations and whimsically titled pictures draw on every conceivable influence from Cubism, ancient hieroglyphs, and Mozart operas to Baroque art. In 1920, Klee joined the Bauhaus School of Art and Design, where he established an enduring friendship with Kandinsky and created a vast number of works, each of which he carefully annotated. Lifeline. 1898 moves to Munich to study art. 1906 marries pianist Lily Stumpf. 1914 visits Tunisia, which has a major influence on his work. 1916, his close friend Franz Marc dies. Klee is conscripted. 1920 joins the Bauhaus. 1924-25 holds his first show in New York. A year later he contributes to an exhibition of surrealist art in Paris. 1931-33 leaves the Bauhaus, joins the Dusseldorf Academy until forced to flee Nazi Germany. 1940 dies of heart failure. Street Café in Tunis, number 55. Klee accompanied fellow artists Auguste Mack and Louis Maillot on a painting trip to Tunisia, where he produced 30 watercolor sketches. 1914, watercolor and pencil on card, 10 by 22 centimeters, Sammlung Scharf-Chersenberg, Berlin, Germany. Senecio. This brightly colored face, made up of gentle geometric shapes, is named after a genus of plants, perhaps because it resembles a seed head. The quizzical head has a totemic quality of focus for adoration as much as for amusement. 1922, oil on canvas, 41 by 38 centimeters, Kunstmuseum, Basel, Switzerland. Untitled, Signs of Growth. Around 1937, Klee's line became much heavier and his colors more basic. In 1935 he had been diagnosed with the fatal disease scleroderma, and it is probable that he simplified his approach so he could work more rapidly, aware that time was short. 1937, oil on paper, 63 by 48 centimeters, Kunsthal, Hamburg, Germany. Red Balloon, number 179. The lightness of touch and uncluttered composition of Klee's Tunisian paintings gradually took on a more precise edge. The viewer can tell this is a townscape even though it is veering towards abstraction. Paradoxically, it is the red balloon that acts as the visual anchor and unites the different elements. 1922, oil on muslin on cardboard, 32 by 31 centimeters, Guggenheim Museum, New York, U.S. Closer look. Technique. The sky is the thinnest of oil washes under which the chalk-primed muslin can still be seen. Against this misty background the balloon, with its thick red pigment, appears even more dominant. What is really essential, really productive, is the way after all. Becoming is superior to being. Paul Klee. In context. Worthless currency. In 1923, Germany defaulted on war debt repayments, and Belgium and France occupied the Ruhr. Astronomical inflation ensued, and within weeks the German mark became worthless. High-denomination notes were rushed out, including one designed by Bauhaus professor Herbert Bayer. 50 billion mark banknote, even multi-billion mark notes had little value.